Well, I like to think of the word pro as half of the word progress. We're all a work in progress. We all come to this, we're all here because we care, and we care about learning. And remember that we are a work in progress. We're at different places in our networking skills. And so everything you hear today is going to be, some is going to be familiar, some is not, to varying degrees. So just relax, and we're just going to have a good time with this. So next week at the Biz Buzz, some are going to walk out of there doing the happy dance, because there's the happy dance. They are going to be doing the happy dance because they scored, they made some good connections. Others, not so much. Some are going to come prepared, and some are going to fall all over their words and walk out of there just beating themselves up. And you know why I know this? Because I have done every one of those things. I am going to tell you about the first time that I went to my first networking experience. That was me, the deer in the headlights. I had just joined Daryl full-time in our business. This was January 2005. And we were going to the Mount Vernon Biz Buzz. At that time, it was up at Eagle Mont. I had never been to a chamber meeting. I had never promoted our business. I had never. So we go, and he says, "You'll be just fine." I can tell the stories right back there. "You will be just fine. You're social. You know how to communicate. You know how to talk to people. You'll be fine." So I thought, yeah, I can do that. All right, there I am at the table. And you got 60 seconds to tell people succinctly, clearly, and with clarity what you do. Well, you use up 30 seconds just saying and ah and stumbling all over yourself. I walked out of that meeting that day thinking, I have no idea what I said. I have no idea who I met. I don't know what I'm doing. So I thought, well, there are three things I could do. First thing I wanted to do was retreat. I never wanted to go to another chamber meeting or Biz Buzz again, because that is a scary world out there. I just wanted to stay in the office. So I started to speculate how I could do that and avoid actually going out. And I thought, well, there's just two of us in this business. This is not going to work. So the other thing I could do was I could repeat what I had just done. And I thought, really, that's not an option, because that was painful. I never, ever, ever want to do that again. So then I thought, well, I can renew. I can look and see what I can do differerly and how I can do it differently. So Aristotle, smart dude, this quote's been around for a long time, so obviously it's effective. We are what we repeatedly do. So excellence then is not an event, it's a habit, which means our networking habits, how we promote our business, is a long-term process. And there again, the work in progress. You're going to hear two things pretty continuously today. One is work in progress, and one is taking the stairs. So as we're a work in progress and we're moving about, how do we do this? And that's what I did. What do? I joined organizations. I attended meetings. I read books. I went to workshops that were professionally related for our industry and ones that were related to how to promote your business. I just immersed myself in it. One thing I did was I went to Leadership Skagit. I'm a graduate of the class of 2006. And that was kind of a tipping point for me in this community. We had moved here from Camino Island in 2003 and brought our business and moved it here. And so there were a lot of changes going on. Another thing that happened when I went to Leadership Skagit, I thought, I have to do something about my fear of public speaking. So I joined Toastmasters. So I am a continuous work in progress. I am a lifelong learner. I have learned that phrase over the years, and it has benefited us a lot in our business because we both believe that way. So I like to say, I'm not where I want to be, and I'm not where I'm going to be, but I thank God I'm not where I was, because that deer in the headlight was not a good feeling. So today we're going to look at networking in general, and then we're going to see how it applies to the Biz Buzz. So if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. So what is networking? Well, it's not net sitting, and it's not net eating, although we tend to do a lot of that when we come together for these events. But networking is defined as the exchange of information. The screen is very high. That was the first thing Andy noticed when he came in the room. I think they're going to work on getting it lower. It's an exchange of information or services. It's a supportive system of sharing information and services among individuals and groups. It's the cultivation of productive relationships for employment or business. So what I look at that and I think, well, what is networking? It is working. Some experts call it fishing or farming. I think that sounds almost mercenary when it comes to networking, but the reality is it is work. It does take time, it does take energy, and it is all require action. It requires communication, it requires conversation, but when you put those two together, what you get is connection, and that's what networking is ultimately all about. You want to make connections. So you want to be authentic. This cute couple here in the back of their Miata. This is authentically who we are. You want to be authentic. You want to be yourself. Because being authentic is probably the biggest and best skill you have. You know how to be you. So be you, and then take what you learn and put it out. Because we're all going to be different. We're all uniquely different, and it's okay. If we all went to a networking meeting and everybody looked kind of generic like these people do, we'd be a pretty boring bunch. So being uniquely us is perfectly okay. So there's some basic networking facts of business that I have learned since my day of being a deer in the headlights. And I'm in a different place than I was then, and as I said, I hope to be in a better place continuously. We're all a work in progress, so when you hear these today, take one or two that resonate with you. You're going to hear them and you're going to think, I know that. But if something says to you, I could do that better, those are the ones, those are your takeaways. That's what you walk out of here today. Evaluate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10. Think, well, I'm probably a 4 or 5 in this area. And then make it your job in the next 90 days to take that to a 7, 8, 9, or 10 level. Because if we try and focus on too many things at one time, it can be overwhelming. So just work on a couple of things that stand out to you. Now the experts say we've got 5 seconds to put our best foot forward. 5 seconds to make a good first impression. A lot can happen in that 5 seconds, and it can seem overwhelming, but if you're calm and relaxed and being authentically yourself, it works. I call it the hokey pokey of doing business. You putting that right foot out and moving all about. So here are the basic components. Be on time. It's simple, and there's a reason for it. There's a reason. Sometimes when we leave the office, so we're trying to get out of there, and we're on an appointment, and they're keeping us longer. Sometimes that can be challenging. Yes. Sometimes that can be really challenging, because things happen, and everybody knows that. But it's doing yourself a favor to be on time for an event, because when you're on time for an event, I know, Nancy, I'm sorry that you walked in right now. But you had that important phone call just before you left, and that was it, or you got caught by the train. No, the point is that what happens is you're calm and you're relaxed. If you're there to promote your business, you want to walk in feeling confident and relaxed. And if you're rushing in your hurry, that's not a fun way to arrive. Next, wear your name tag. Everybody appreciates knowing who you are. We go to a lot of events in this community. There's a lot of opportunities. And as you navigate around the room, you see somebody, and you met them 3 chamber meetings ago. Now, they look familiar, but I can't remember their name. Oh, anybody will just love you for wearing your name tag, because they can discreetly glance at it and say, hi, Stephanie, it was good to see you. We chatted a couple of meetings ago. So do yourself a favor, because it makes you identifiable, and they remember who you are, and they're happy that you're wearing your name tag. So right away, they're liking you a lot. Now here's one talent we all have. It's a smile. It doesn't take any effort. It's just a smile. And it's our most powerful weapon. to break the ice. And that's basically what we're doing when we're networking. We're breaking the ice with people who've never met before. The handshake. The handshake is something that can happen in that first 5 seconds. So think about it. You're smiling, you got a name tag on. None of those take time. And here's when the hokey pokey really comes in. You put your right hand out and you shake it all about, and you do the hokey pokey, and that's what it's all about. Because you've got to have a lighthearted look at networking. You can't, if you're putting too much pressure on yourself, it's going to show. So there again, you want to be authentic. The thing about a handshake is it makes you approachable, it shows you're confident, it shows you're professional. A handshake is an acceptable touch, and we all know the value of touch in our society. And when you shake that hand, you connect and create instant rapport with the person that you're speaking to. Eye contact. This is one of mine that I just struggle with. Eye contact is so important. We all know, or we should know, that listening is more important than talking. But I've just asked someone a question. I've just asked you who you are and what business you're with. And you begin to tell me. And we're talking, but there's a lot of activity going around. And so I glance over there, and Nancy smiles and waves at me, and I smile and wave at Nancy. I've just insulted you, like big time, because I've asked you what you do, and I didn't give you the courtesy of continuing to listen to answer my question, and I waved to Nancy. Now the other thing that happens is, we're talking, and I take my eyes off you, and Nancy smiles and waves at me, and I think, have this internal conversation with myself. Oh, I can't smile and wave at Nancy. I'm talking to Bill. Sorry, you're not Bill, but we'll go with it. I'm talking to Bill here. and I can't make connection here. So now I've insulted Nancy because she smiled and waved at me, and I ignored her. And I've insulted him because I looked away. So the safest thing we can do when we engage in conversation in a networking situation, and it is so hard to do. You know, somebody comes and taps you on the shoulder, it's kind of hard to ignore them. That's a different situation. But if you're talking with someone, you've asked them a question, maintain that eye contact. It's really important. Because you don't want them to think you've asked them this, but she really cared. She just started waving to everybody else in the room, right? Ask easy questions. Now, on the handout that you have, I do have some questions. Our friend Google is so good for these kinds of things. I Googled, what kind of questions do you answer at networking meetings? And I picked out the ones that I like. They're simple, they're basic, and if you go prepared with one or two, then you're already knowing what you're going to say. Sometimes you become that deer in the headlights, and you think, shoot, what should I say? What do I say? If you think ahead of time, what you can ask, those are very helpful for you. And if somebody has asked you a question, ask back. How many times, and I've done this, somebody's asked me, oh, what brings you to this event today? Or what is your business? And I start to tell them, and I get caught up in a big description, and I realize, and then our conversation ends, and I walk away and I think, I didn't even ask them what they do. I can't believe I just did that. So when somebody asks you a question, keep it to about 20 to 30 seconds to respond. If they want to ask more, let them ask more. If they don't ask more, then you ask back. And that's when the real connection begins and the real conversation begins. You want to remember to ask back. And I know that sounds really basic, but I know this, and I still forget to do it sometimes. I think, dang, I can't believe I forgot to do that. So we have to consciously enter into those situations knowing that we need to remember to ask back, to be inquiring. And that's where more listening than talking is very helpful. All right, stay on the pathway. Keep it light. When you stray from that pathway in conversations and a networking meeting, you're stepping in a minefield. There are bombs out there, folks. You don't want to step on one of those. You want to avoid political conversations, you want to avoid religious conversations, and you want to avoid the TMI conversations. sometimes they can get pretty intense. And I have stood there and I have just met somebody and I thought, I cannot believe they're telling me this. I just can't believe they're telling me this. And yes,
TMI.
too much information.
Oh,
sorry, Linda. Yes.
Thank you,
Too
Stephanie.
much information. And sometimes people just give you too much personal information. So you want to be sensitive and not do the same thing. So unless you really know someone, now I know Tina, so if I go up to Tina at a meeting, I know some things about her life and I can say, well, how are you recovering from, I don't know, surgery or, you know, those kinds of things. I would say that, but I wouldn't say that to someone I didn't know. I might have heard from someone else. You just want to avoid those very personal conversations. Another thing that you want to avoid is negative comments. This food sucks. Ah, you just said it to the caterer's spouse. Okay, that's an awkward moment. They are probably not going to call you to do business real soon. You want to be careful what you say because you don't know who you're saying about. And plus, it just isn't a very positive way to engage in a conversation. There's a difference between aggression and assertive. We don't want to come on pushy or strong. No one likes the networking Nazi, and no one wants to be known as the networking Nazi. So you want to keep it light, just doing those things that we've talked about, and not be that aggressive, because if you push too hard, we all want to make our own decision. Nobody needs to push me. I want to make that educated decision. I know what you do, I know where you are, I know your availability, and I know how to contact you. So, especially if it's a first meeting or a second meeting, they say it takes about 7 times to connect with someone before that potential for business begins and the relationship begins. Quality over quantity. Except for the biz buzz, because everywhere, every table you go to, somebody's going to hand you a card. If you're going to the biz buzz, be sure to bring lots of cards or brochures, something that describes your business. But your goal from a networking event is not to walk away with that huge honking stack of business cards, because what are you going to do with them? After a while, you've got a lot of business cards. Your goal would be to walk out with, some people intentionally walk into a networking meeting to say, I'm going to walk away with anywhere from 1, 2, or 3 good, viable contacts. And those are the cards that matter. Now, when it comes to business cards, I would really like to get my card in your hand, because we've had a conversation and I think you could really use what I provide. But it seems sometimes the best way, sometimes if you just hand somebody a card, it's kind of like, here, give me a call. The best way to do that, and the politest way to do that is, could I have your business card? I'd really like to connect with you sometime. Maybe we can go for coffee. Now, mostly what she's going to do, most likely, is then ask me for my business card. So if you want to get your business card into somebody's hand, the best way to do it, and the politest way to do it, and the most professional way to do it, is to ask for theirs first. And if they don't, you know, you can gauge the situation. If they don't ask for your card, you still have their card, and you can contact them at a later date and set up a coffee date or communicate with them via email. Another thing that I have learned, I learned it early on, was to have no expectations when I went to a networking event. The relationship that I'm building is actually more important to me in the long run than it is if they ever do business with me. Sometimes relationships take a long time. Sometimes it is your future customer. Daryl and I have, over the years, I think a schmooze fair, and we've had a booth at schmooze fair for 10, 11 years. Sometimes those people come to our booth 5, 6, 7 years in a row before they become a customer. And that's okay, because that's what you're doing. You're building business for today, but you're also building business for the future. And it's much more relaxing if you don't have those, because it takes the pressure off. You're not feeling so aggressive, and you're allowed to be calm and relaxed. Another thing about that is that you don't want to leave it to chance. So you want to be prepared, like those questions that are on the handout sheet, and have your cards handy. And one thing to think about too is that this person may not be a viable contact. They may not be a decision maker, but you don't know who they know. And you don't know where they'll be working 6 months from now. You don't know anything about them. And so if you always treat them with respect and that you care more about them and what they're doing in that event than actually trying to sell your product or service in the long run, it's a much more productive process. And I didn't touch on teamwork. Teamwork, that concept is the three of us are standing here talking. And you and I we have not met, but she knows both of us. You know, the best thing, and you know, I'm sorry, Jeanette. Mike. All right. Jeanette is standing there and she says, Mike, I'd like you to meet Stephanie. Now what Jeanette can start doing, she can start really bragging up what I do. She can just sing my praises. Oh my gosh, you wouldn't believe, she did this for my company. And in turn, she can say, and Stephanie, I want you to meet Mike because he is the most amazing programmer, realtor, whatever he is. And he won Businessman of the Year last year. Oh, you know, Mike and I are shaking hands and, well, nice to meet you. Jeanette's looking pretty good to us right now. She's been bragging us up. She's been saying things about ourselves we never say about ourselves. So if you're in that kind of situation and you're in, there are more than two of you having that conversation, be sure to brag the other person up and say some really positive things about their business. It makes you look good, and you haven't bragged about yourself at all. These are opportunities to sing somebody else's praises that they're not going to sing about themselves. Now, you want to practice it. That 20-second, 30-second clip, how you're going to answer, think about it ahead of time. As I said, sometimes if you don't, and they say, well, what do you do? Well, it's kind of like you forgot what you did, right? But if you have something right on the tip of your tongue, you can come out with it and not sound like you don't know what you do. And time yourself. See how long it takes to respond like that. Think about what you say when somebody asks you what you do, and then time yourself and see how long you are actually taking to do it. And if you need help, get it. One of the ways that you can do that is to have somebody else give you feedback, partner up with somebody that you know and trust. Another place is Toastmasters, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that today too. Follow-up. Now follow-up, they used to say, should be a handwritten note. But the experts that I've been reading about from say that an email follow-up, especially first-time meeting, is totally acceptable. What they do suggest is that you put it in a note format, just like you've written a handwritten note, but it's an email. And it's a way to follow up. It was great to meet you at the BizBuzz. I really look forward to meeting with you sometime. Is it possible to get together for coffee? Something like that. You just say something simple and basic. You might refer to a conversation. It was sure great to talk. We both love skiing. Wasn't that? It was really a good opportunity to connect that way. You just, whatever connection you made, you can make reference to it. A phone call is still acceptable. Sometimes you play a lot of phone tag, and the person doesn't call you back, and you go, oh, should I call him back? You know, how many times do you follow up? Everybody has different rules. Somebody has a rule of like 12 times, 13 times. I'm 3 times. If somebody's asked me to call them, and I call them, and they don't call me back, I might follow up with another call or an email. After that, I think it's in their ballpark. Maybe they've changed their mind, their circumstances have changed, whatever. To me, 2 or 3 times is enough to follow up. Another follow-up is I recommend connecting with people. You've got their card, you've got their information. Look and see if they have a business page on Facebook. If you're not on Facebook, then it's not that big a deal. But if you're on Facebook, because people don't want to friend somebody they just met at a chamber function. Now, I don't post anything on my Facebook page that I would not want any one of you to see. So I'm happy to have everybody be my friend. It's no big deal. And if you want to see pictures of us taking our grandkids to the Salmon Festival, well, you're welcome to them. But there's some people that consider their Facebook page intensely personal. And they're happy with 47 friends, and they don't want to add any. to their friend list, because they keep it to family and very close friends. And they're going to be offended if they've met you once and then you go and want to friend them on Facebook. So look for a business page, because there's nothing more flattering. We have a business page, so if anybody wants to like us, you're welcome to. We have a business page, and if I've been to an event, or Daryl's been to an event, and within 24 hours somebody that we just met is liking it, wow, I got to tell you, they scored some points there. They're looking pretty good. LinkedIn is the safest place. Look for them on LinkedIn. That is the best way to connect with people that you've met at business events. And I know there's others, but I think those two are the most common ones that we encounter. And Rebecca's shaking her head, and yes, she agrees with me, because that's why I looked at you to agree with me. So here's an etiquette note. Respondez s'il vous plaît. It is French. We all know it as RSVP. Some people don't know what RSVP means. It means a response is requested. Now, you get a request for an RSVP for the chamber. You don't have to email them and say, no, I can't make it, because that's not what they're looking for. They're just looking for a head count for their event, because they've told the caterer how many is going to be there. If it's a different kind of networking event, or a social but a business event, and it asks for an RSVP, sometimes there is that last minute thing, and those are okay, but as a rule, you want to respond. No, I can't make it. Yes, I can. Because not responding is not the same as a decline. Your event or your host is the event person, or your host, you're in limbo. They don't know if you're going to show up or not. So if you see that, evaluate, is this something I need to respond to, yes or no? Our friend, yes, Joe?
Just coming back, remembering from my wedding, about a fifth, 1 in 5 of the responses we got from the RSVPs was, we'll try to be there.
Yeah.
That's the wrong answer. In fact, it's the only wrong answer, but it's the wrong answer.
It is the wrong answer.
Make sure it's a definitive.
Yeah. And that just gets into etiquette, life's etiquette, and business etiquette. So some events, like I said, the chamber event doesn't need to know you're not coming, but they do need to know if you are coming. Now here's our friend and our foe. It's a blessing and a curse. We have made this little instrument. We've created the tyranny of the urgent in our lives. It used to be, you'd be gone from your office for 1 or 2 hours, and you'd come back, and you'd check your voicemail, your message recorder, and you know what? The world didn't stop because you didn't return that call immediately. 2 or 3 hours later, you usually return them within 24 hours, but the world didn't stop. But somehow we think this little piece of plastic with whatever amazing things goes on in there that actually makes it work, that you could talk to somebody on the other side of the world. We've made that more important than the people we're with at the moment. Okay, here's the caveat. There are times you're expecting that big call, that $1 million call, right? So you're at the event and you know this client is going to call you because they've said, I'm going to call you Wednesday. It'll be sometime between, it's like Comcast, sometime between noon and 5. So you're thinking, okay, I hope there's nobody from Comcast here, because that's really okay, then at least you know when they're coming. But so you've got this phone and you're going into the meeting. Well, what you don't want to do, because we've all been at the meeting, there's the phone. It's on vibrate, hey, no problem. The whole table down the row is shaking. Everybody's looking, what's the phone? So keep it on your person. Let the point of it is to have the vibration on your person. And we do that, and I do that. Like I said, I'm guilty of all of these. This is why I know they're so important. Sit close to the door. If you're expecting that call, sit close to the door and then quietly slip out when it comes in, and wait to answer until the door is closed. These are common things, but we all struggle with them, and we all want to be polite in those situations. And we don't want to make this little hunk of stuff rule our lives or control a situation. Also on cell phone use, there was another one, and it's just escaped. Oh, an important call. Nancy and I are meeting for coffee, and I come in, but I know that I've been playing phone tag all week with somebody, and I really need to take the call if it comes. or the school has called and said your child is sick, and you just put in a call to the neighbor or your spouse, can somebody go get my child? So you have this important call. It's pretty important. And so we come into coffee, and if Nancy says to me, I'm expecting this really important call, would you mind very much if I get it, if I take the call? Certainly, I'm not going to stop her from making connection with her $1 million client or making sure her child gets picked up at school by somebody. So asking permission when you're in a situation is, in my book, is totally acceptable. And I think most people, if they understand the reason that you need to take the call, are okay with it. So whether you own your own business or you're networking for the company you work for, success does come through practice and preparation. And so whether you're that deer in the headlights version 2005 Stephanie, or you're a seasoned networker, we all have to continually work on our skills. Obviously, you're all here. No matter where you're at, you care about making a good impression. And so if we're constantly working on it, it keeps us motivated and keeps us going. So Toastmasters. There are several clubs in our community, and there's a few of them in the room who have, or are in Toastmasters, who have visited Toastmasters Club. It was, for me, it is a place where you can work on your presentations, you can work on your business presentations and get some really good feedback. You develop confidence in your speaking skills, you find your voice, you find your place, you find your rhythm, and it's a safe environment to learn those things. Now, I belong to two clubs, one that meets on Tuesdays at noon and one that meets twice a month, the second and fourth Wednesday of the month. And in each one of them, we all come from, most of us come from professional settings, and we're there to work on our speaking skills. So education is as simple as reading motivational books, 15 minutes a day. I've given you a list of books that Daryl and I have read in the last 2, 3, 4 years, books that resonated with us. Now when you read them, just like today, not everything's going to resonate with you, not everything's going to have some meaning to it, but I guarantee there's always going to be 1 or 2 things that stand out to you and that you want to begin to implement. So none of them are a waste of time. Here's my friend Rory Baden, Take the Stairs. Daryl and I read his book probably about 18 months ago, and both of us are on a reread on this one. Rory has a really practical approach. To take the stairs is pretty self-explanatory. You can choose to take the escalator, which is the easy way out, and suffer the consequences at the end because you didn't do the hard work at the beginning, or you take the stairs and do the hard work. And he also has a great discussion in his book about procrastination, and not quite how we think about procrastination. Another one is Darren Hardy, The Compound Effect. And that's, we've all seen the movie, What About Bob, right? Baby steps, baby steps. Okay, Bill Murray, you gotta see it, Linda, it's good. It's an old movie. But his book is about taking the small steps. We have this great audacious goal out there, and it's up there and it's glowing and beaming, but we're not sure how to get there. So his book teaches you how to make those small steps, daily steps, that aren't difficult, that aren't demanding, but those small steps slowly get you to that big goal. He also publishes Success Magazine, and in that magazine comes a CD that you can listen to in your car. And it's interviews and articles about entrepreneurs and successful CEOs and how they got there and how they built their business. Robert D. Smith, he had in his book, No Brand is an Island. Now that was one of those books that I read, and there was a couple of things that jumped out at me. The rest of the book I skimmed through, but it was good for a lot of reasons. And he says, the real product is you. Your interaction with people is the only thing they will consider in order to determine whether to buy something you are selling. So you want to, that goes right back to being your authentic self, being your real you, but being prepared and understanding what is expected of you in a networking situation. So if you want to be confident, enthusiastic, genuine, authentic, and successful. Hey, who doesn't want to be that? You know, work on your skills, because we are the beneficiaries of our actions. We reap the consequences of what we sow. So we want to sow good things, and we want to sow positive things. So you can retreat, which I'm guessing you're all here is not an option. You can repeat, again, not really an option, or you can renew yourself daily by working on your skills and learning about promoting your business. So I remind you again to rate yourself on one or two of these things that we've talked about today, and see how you want to work on improving those skills, and seek out information, book, a newsletter. Most of these people and most of these books on the book list, you can find them on Facebook, you can find them on LinkedIn, and they'll have, you can subscribe to emails and newsletters and whatever, so you can get a small dose, a daily dose of just keeping things top of mind for yourself. And to close this portion of our presentation, we're going to work a little bit on our commercials here. Your smile. I just saw this on LinkedIn last night. I was so excited when I saw it. Your smile is your logo. Your personality is your business card. You leave others feeling. How you leave others feeling after an experience with you becomes your trademark. So that first 5 seconds when you're smiling and you're putting that right foot out and that right hand out to shake it all about, that's what it is all about. All right, so does anybody need to take a break? Does anybody have a question? Does anybody have a comment? Yes?
Does everyone here know you and what you do? Because you didn't really introduce yourself.
I didn't. I should have had Andy do that, yes.
And I'm thinking that she is the greatest lady if you need promotional products. Because we needed a sewing kit of some sort, and she was on her way to Las Vegas and said she would specifically look at all the vendors. And Stephanie came back with just a ton of ideas for us. So thank you for this presentation.
Thank you.
Everyone, if you need a promotional product.
And I should have overall identified myself. I figured my name was on the thing, and here's my name tag, right? Right-hand side, by the way, I did research this too, because I thought, okay, I always do this. If we're right-handed, our tendency is to put it here, but they say always on the right hand, because even if you're left-handed, you shake with your right hand, and so when you reach out, that's where their line of vision goes. So your name tag belongs on the right-hand side.
I always wear mine on the left.
She just did a great example of teamwork right there.
Yes, she did. That's why I said, yeah, bring it on. Good job. All right.
I want to second that because
Yes.
we just got an order filled from you, and it's the red cups.
Oh, yes.
And we are so excited because
Oh,
it's
good.
football season, and it's a great promotional item, and they are fantastic.
They are.
I have one in my car. I should bring it in and show you, and I can showcase it for you.
And they have been very popular. We got those out at the Schmooze Fair, been very popular. Yes, Lisa.
I have a comment. I just so everybody knows, I get a daily dose of Darren Hardy every day.
Mhm.
I get a text to me on my cell phone and get a comment and a video.
Yes, we've been getting those emails
Yeah,
also. Not every day, but the little videos
Well,
are
you
like
can
a
and you can
minute
set
or
it
two.
up. Yeah, you can set it up whether you want it
Yeah.
once a week, once
Yeah.
every day. I need it every day,
And
obviously.
he's a good motivator for your goals.
It really is.
He's excellent, does an excellent work on that.
Jared Murphy, he's right here.
Which reminds you, when we talk about, we talk
He's
about,
also on Facebook, and he has a blog magazine. You can sign up for his free newsletter that comes out.
All right, it's 1:45, and we can run probably a few minutes over. If you need to leave, I certainly understand that. So you have your hand out here, and I'm not going to do a whole lot of PowerPoint here. And if I were you sitting out there, my neck would be sore by now. That is really high. Andy talked about doing something to get it down for things like this, because that is really, it's maybe not too bad from back there, but up close I think it's kind of high. Anyway, what is an elevator speech, or your infomercial? It is a brief, persuasive statement of your business to spark interest. It's an expanded verbal portion or version of your business card. So think about that's your commercial. It's just elaborating a little bit more of what your business card says without overwhelming the individual. Here again, you want to be authentic, you want to be prepared, and that equals confidence. You will come off as confident if you have prepared this ahead of time. And here it is again, the stairs. Zig Ziglar liked the stairs too. In fact, I think Zig Ziglar might have been a mentor of Rory. There is no elevator to success. You have to take the stairs. You have to get prepared. You have to do the work ahead of time. And I'm not going to go there yet. Okay, so I've handed out the list. This is not going to be on PowerPoint. We're just going to talk about it together. How many of you have ever been to the BizBuzz before? Okay, and some of you are totally new to this. So how have you done it in the past for your commercial? Have you prepared it? Yes?
Well, see, I'm in the mortgage business, and so I usually try to focus on what message I want to talk about or what product I want to talk about. So one time I'll do renovation, the next time I'll talk about my Homes for Heroes. So I try to change it up, but I have my my introduction, then I talk about the product, and then my ending.
Right. And you're comfortable giving it?
I've done it a lot.
Right, but you have thought about it ahead of time, and so that's where the comfort comes. And that's where my biggest mistake was, that first time. It's like, sure, I know it. In fact, not too long ago, I had to do a little talk about who I am and my life, and I thought, I know myself. I stood up there and I went blank. I thought, oh my gosh, I can't remember anything about myself. So it's helpful, even those little notes, and think about them before you go in so you know exactly what you're going to say. And I say it, part of it is because you want to be successful. So the contacts you make and the connections you make, you want them to have a good experience, and you want to walk out of there like the big orange bear doing a happy dance, right? You want to feel good about what you did. So looking at an infomercial, these are some things that it is on your worksheet here. It's a mini speech about you and your business to sell efficiently and effectively with an interesting, memorable overview. The length, 60 seconds. BizBuzz, you get 60 seconds. If you haven't thought about what you're going to say, and by the time you get to the meat of what you're going to say, and you're already 45 minutes into it, the buzzer goes off, you got to stop. Because if you keep talking, the person next to you is not going to be happy because you're using their time. So you've got 60 seconds to say and give your business. So I recommend having a commercial that comes in at about 50 to 55 seconds, just to allow for those variations and allow for that moment to breathe between blurting it all out really fast. Because there is this sense of urgency. I got 60 seconds. I got to get this out. And so you end up really fast. So we don't want to sound like we don't know what we're doing, so practice. The what's in it for me message. So this list here are things to think about as you create your commercial. You can't possibly implement everything on this list. But they're things to think about as you put together your commercial. And the what's in it for me message, you want them to remember what's in it for them. You can use a hook or a tagline. Our tagline and hook, I don't always use it, but sometimes I do, is promoting you is what we do since 1983. Somebody said, you should say it's 1982. I said, but that's not true. So I thought, well, I could add that. I could say 1982. Anyway, keep it simple. Jargon that's relative to your business, it's not going to mean anything to anyone else. It's going to make you sound like you know what you're doing. But if they don't know what those words mean, tech people might be real good examples of that. Sometimes you can get really, it's like, whoa, I'm just still trying to figure out how, my basic desktop works or my iPad works, the fundamentals. I don't even know what you're talking about. So those are the kind of things, and that might be your commercial. You come to me. When you hear those words you don't know anybody's talking about, come to me and I'll help you. So you want to identify your message and your goal, and you want to state clearly what makes you unique. And in some books it's called your USP, your unique selling proposition. So what value do you provide? What problems do you solve? Do you have a success story? John Marshall, he did a presentation a few months back, and he talked about that. He talks about success stories. he'll start to tell about how they successfully made a difference or testimonials, and he'll use those to promote his business. Engage with a question. Of course, at the BizBuzz, it's kind of hard to have a question. This would apply in other situations, because if you ask a question, if you want your 60 seconds to be used up with everybody answering it, well, then that will work. But and consider not starting with your name or your business, because ideally, if you got this baby on, and you know some of them are even bigger, they can see who you are. You can still say it, but you don't need to start with it, because you might want to start with something that gets and piques their interest. You could write it down. You want to write it down. You want to say it out loud. You want to hear yourself say it. And then you rewrite it until you feel like you like it, and walk away from it, and then come back to it, and just keep looking at it until you feel like, yeah, that's me. I'm comfortable saying that, because that is me being authentic to myself. I could write a commercial for you, but it might not be you, and you'd feel stiff and uncomfortable in saying it. And use a stopwatch. We all have, if you have a smartphone, you have a stopwatch. And just use it to see how long it's taking you to say the commercial. So does anybody have any input? Does anybody have a great commercial they've used that they'd like to share? Yeah.
I'd love to hear yours.
Well,
That's my friend.
I knew you were going to say that. I didn't know you were going to say that, but I thought somebody's going to say that.
Yeah.
So what I did was, I tend to, as I went through this exercise myself, I thought, you know, you can change it up, Stephanie. You can say something different. So I thought about what I could say different. I'd start different. And I don't know if any of you ever know John Jarlamek. I sometimes struggle over his name. He's a chiropractor in town. The first time I heard him start a commercial, and he never said who he was until the very end. He never said what he did, but he provoked. I mean, it was like, wow, that was good. So I thought, oh, okay. So this is rough draft because I just started working on it a couple of days ago. So I could start out by saying, everyone is networking to capture their market share of new business today. That's why you're here. So the question is, how do you stand out in a crowd? How can you take your business up a notch? The answer? Well, there are several. You can do it, and I have the solution. A guaranteed way to leave a lasting and good impression. At Bayside Specialties, we provide those kinds of solutions to promote your business through promotional advertising. The kind of items everyone likes to get. We've been working with clients for over 30 years to provide products they're proud to wear, drink out of, write with, and give to their customers. Promotional advertising works because it's long-term, minimizing the cost per impression, and the items are useful along with the name being in front of your recipients daily. I did not trust my memory. I did read it. I know that. I thought, I'm not going to even try and do this from memory yet. So this might be my commercial next week. Daryl often goes to BizBuzz. You want to share what you often say?
Gosh, it's been a while
I know
since
I
I've
took
been
you
there,
surprise.
but
Sorry.
what I have been saying over the years is we are in the business to increase our clients' market share and sales, and how we do that is with promotional products. Because when your client is in need of your product or your service, you want them to have something with your name on it, whether it's on the wall, on the desk, that are drinking out of it somewhere. You really don't want them to get into the yellow pages they make like a competitor. And it's just more as a convenience to them to really, to have an item there with your name on it. It's just so much easier. And we have multiple stories from our clients that tell us the same thing.
So you can, there's your success. It's all ahead. You just have to go home and do the homework. Does anybody have any questions? How they would like to start? Maybe we can group help.
Just a question, handing out materials,
Mhm.
because, you know, if you hand them out as you begin talking, then you might lose eye contact with the people looking at your brochure or whatever else you're handing out. Do you suggest handing them out at the end, beginning? How do people manage the coordination of
So
that?
we're going to talk about the BizBuzz, right? Is that?
Yes.
Yes, okay. So on the BizBuzz, pretty well 90% of the people in the room, 80% maybe, have been to one before. And when you're 60 seconds, you just don't even have to think about it. Just send them to the person next to you, and they just start to pass them around, and those who want to take your brochure, your business card, will take them as they come around the table. You don't have to do anything after that. You just, just begin, hi, they're going to start with your name, and pass it on.
The other thing that I do, a lot of, I do on-site or in-home computer repair. So and a lot of my clients are in 50-plus communities where there's like a door or a person. I'll go and knock on the door and very stumblingly, still working on that, try to explain what it is that I do. And when I'm finished, I say, also I've made up these cards. If you'll just take a few of these, and it explains more detail what I do. So it's not part of the presentation. It's here. This is the part. This is to reiterate what I just said. So that's how I do it, and it seems to work well.
We often will bring, because of what we do, we bring an item to pass around. Even something so simple as a business card and a sticky note and a pen. These pens that you have here today, you're welcome to take. They're the newest thing that's out there. Lots of pens with styluses and pretty popular. But we will I'll just begin to pass those out. And then I might talk about the item, or I might talk about, I have talked about the most popular item. We've seen a real increase in sales in the red Solo cup.
Well, here's my idea, and I'm going to do is, I'm going to get everybody's business card, put them into the cup, and then we'll do a drawing and somebody gets the cup
Perfect,
at
at
every
every table.
That's what I'm going to do this
Okay,
time.
see, so you've got.
I've been thinking about
A
it.
hook. You've got a hook.
I'm trying.
Yeah. Get their attention.
Something new.
Yeah. And so we can talk about an item or a product. You could hand around something, like a broken, I've seen somebody do this. You hand around a broken car part. You don't want your car part to look like this, and then you can proceed to tell the story about it. I mean, there's a lot of options. Anybody else have some ideas to share?
Speak plainly. I think
Oh my
this,
God.
at some of the chamber meetings, not the biz buzz I'm talking about, but just, I can't understand the people, or, talk loud enough and plainly.
I think that comes from practice, though. If you say it enough times, you will slow down. Because you're right, if you start gibbering, all they hear is
And that situation will tend to, and it's noisy. It is noisy in that room. So, everybody's leaning in to listen, and that's another place to listen. You really need to give that person, give them a smile back when they're talking, because especially if you're new to it, there's nothing more heartwarming than somebody actually listening to you and caring what's coming out of your mouth. Yes? Somebody else have you? Yeah.
Oh, it was me. Okay, I didn't know it was me. So, there was a duct cleaner. So it's coming up winter time, the furnaces are going to be started turning on. So he showed us what somebody's ducts vents looked like, and then after they were cleaned. So if you have your mini iPad and whatever your business is, if you could show your before and after, that's really effective.
That's
as well.
perfect. That, or have an actual photograph of it, because then you can pass it around and every person can stop to look at it. Yeah. So BizBuzz is a unique thing all to itself. And if you go knowing and aware of it, that's my job today, that nobody goes in there like the deer in the headlights, like, oh my gosh, what have I done? And you just can go in there with those expectations. Something else to think about, everybody, when they're talking, if you're feeling uncomfortable about what you're going to say when it's your turn, and what happens is that when it's your turn, you're really not listening to the people ahead of you because you're thinking about what you're going to say. And you have not heard, and you may have missed something really good that you could then use to connect with them after the meeting. And then you have your turn and you say it, and then it keeps going around. But you're just now still thinking, oh my gosh, did I say that? What did I say? Did I remember to say that? Did I? And you're not hearing the rest of the people at your table. So if you're prepared and you know what you want to say, you know what message you want to give that day, you're free to listen to everybody else at the table. And when it's your turn, it's just going to come out, and then you can hear the rest of the people at the table. Those of you who have not been to a BizBuzz before, it's fast-paced speed dating. And some people refer to it as, a version of speed dating.
I went to one.
You went to one.
And I had no idea what it was about. And by my dear, I'm really good at public speaking, but I tell you, totally unprepared, I had no idea what was going on. You know, it was interesting. I would be much more prepared.
Yes, it is, and just to know what you want to say. And even if you haven't memorized anything, just to have the basics, these 3 things I'm going to talk about today, then that helps you when you sit down and say what you're going to say. Any other comments?
I do have a comment, because I've never been to a BizBuzz. So you keep talking about these tables. I envision like individual like little desks, like you see on TV,
Round
with the speed of the commercials, stuff like that. So it is like a round table, and what, we just all sit down and.
Yes, yes. You start, the meeting will start, the meeting starts and they have announcements and whatever needs to take place that day. They'll have usually the Upbeat Award and member, who's been a member for 1 year, 5 years, 2 years, 15, 20. And then they begin the BizBuzz. And somebody stays at the ambassadors stay, an ambassador stays at every table, and each table has a number. And you'll count off each time so that you know the next table you go to will be number 7 because you were number 7 in that seat. They count off from whatever number they are counting off from. Just remember your number, that's all you have to remember. And then go to the next table and you sit down. And sometimes you're going to cross over. Sometimes you're going to end up with the same people at the table. By the end of the meeting, if you've been at the same table 3 or 4 times, you become pretty good friends. And so it's fast-paced, but it's effective, and it's a very popular meeting. It usually has extremely high, it's probably the most well-attended meeting for the chamber. And they do, what, 3, 4 years?
Every quarter.
Every quarter, yeah. So it's been good, yeah. And you can always, just buddy up with somebody and ask them to show, especially if you sit at the table, the ambassador will help you. Just say, I haven't done this before, just so I get it clear. If you have any questions, they'll help you. And they're identified by their name tent on the table.
They're pretty good at giving you instructions.
Yes, they are.
And I'll even offer up, if you would, my name's Carol, I'm with Prime Lending. If you give me your card, we can meet, we'll sit at the same table, and I'll make sure I sit before you so you can see that you won't be the first one to go, and
It'd be like job shadowing.
yeah, I'd be happy to help you if you're interested.
Thank you very much.
And you want to be nice to her, she's with martial arts.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Extremely nice.
Worked out well. All right. Yes.
I don't know if there's time or not, but maybe you can go around and everybody can introduce themselves.
Yes, we can do that.
What business.
Perfect, thank you. We start right here.
Okay, I'm Nicole. I'm new with Bellingham Automotive
And Burlington.
and Burlington Automotive and Equipment Services Northwest. They're sister companies. And I came here today with Carol to learn a little bit more about networking. So I'm still working on my commercial. Good.
And I'm Carol Beebe. I'm with Burlington and Billington. I can't talk to you. I've had this problem lately. Burlington and Bellingham Automotive.
And I'm Mike Diver. I'm kind of new to the area. I've been here about a year, and I'm just trying to figure out what I want to do. So I'm working my way around, talking to people and doing things.
So you're networking to find your,
I'm doing a little flight instructing, but other than that, I'm looking for something else to do.
yeah.
I'm Jeanette Shea. I just opened up Pacific Northwest Martial Arts Academy down on Continental Place in the building that Skagit Valley Dimensions of Gymnastics is with. I teach internal and external style of martial arts, and I'm looking for people who would be interested in either taking the classes themselves as adults or maybe their children. I also do ages 4 and up, so.
Good, good commercial. Yes.
I'm Nancy Sharp, and I have Eden State Room on the spot. Make people look beautiful, feel good, and get healthy.
I'm Lindsay. I'm with Friendship House. We're just down the street, and we help serve people who are homeless and hungry.
I'm Tina Tate, and I'm also with Friendship House, and ditto what she said.
Tina has an amazing story. If you ever talk to Tina, you've got to hear her story. It's good.
I'm Carol Harris. I'm with Prime Lending. I mostly do residential mortgages, refinances, renovation loans. But I'm also the new president of Skagit Valley Business Network, and we are looking for new professionals. We're trying to grow our membership, and we are a networking group. And we're the old BNI, and so we don't charge the $400 a year and $35 a meeting. It's only $100 a year. But we want to increase our membership, so we're going to have a membership drive. If anybody's interested in growing their business, getting quality referrals, then please give me your business card and I will get in touch with you and we'll figure out what meeting it would behoove you to come to.
Some of us have been in B&I groups before, and I was in one, we were in one for 7 years. It is a great, especially if you're starting out a business, it is a great platform to get to feel your way through the community and begin to network. It is a great resource.
Right, and you don't have to pay the $100 to come to the meeting, you just come and be a visitor, and if it's, we only allow one professional per category in the, into our group. And so if you're the automotive person, you're not gonna have any other automotive people in there, because we wanna be able to give quality referrals to people that we can trust to make sure that if I give you a referral, that person will be taken care of well, so.
Hi, I'm Linda Pickett and I own Modern Cleaners, and we're a dry cleaner and take care of all your clothing needs, not your dirty house. And once in a while I have to sleep with the boss.
All right, that's her husband, just for those who are like, was that too high?
My name is Pam Kazmarzik, and my mission is to reduce pain and bring deep relaxation to you. I'm a new business, Cascade Bowen Work, over in the granary.
My name is Rebecca Murray with Skagit Media Marketing. I'm primarily a video producer. I also do photography and generate content for websites and social media, etc.
I'm Lisa Knowles. I'm the Job Development Coordinator with Chinook Enterprises. I work with people with disabilities, helping them find employment.
I'm David Christensen. I'm a disabled veteran and new business owner here in Skagit County. I deal with trackers, GPS trackers for school children, Alzheimer's patients, dementia patients, as well as fleet management.
And I'm Daryl Hooper with Bayside Specialties, and Modern Cleaners does a great job, and they deliver.
Look at his shirt. And I love them because I don't have to iron them. It works well.
My name's Joe McClyman. My business is Joe the Computer Guy. I do on-site and in-home computer repair. If you've ever had a plumber say, I'm sorry, your toilet's clogged, why don't you bring it out in, we'll take a look at it. That's how I feel. There's no point in bringing a computer into a shop, because odds are the problem isn't the computer, it's something else. So I would rather see the whole system.
Like not being plugged in.
Stories I could tell you.
I know. All right, well, I'm glad you all came today. I hope you all have one or two takeaways, that something resonated with you and that you want to work on and make a difference in your own personal networking life. So thank you.
Thank you.